Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Jenny David.
Here.
Roger Mayhew.
Yeah.
Charles Wiltie. Here. Brenda Simmons.
Here.
Craig Knott.
Here.
Item 2, any additions or corrections to the agenda? No. Item 3, public comment. Any public comment on agenda items only in the room? Any public comment on the phone? Item 4, appointments. Randy Booth, Equalization Director, Director related to Equalization Report Review. Randy here?
Yeah, this was his idea.
We can.
Yeah.
Morning.
Morning.
Two items for you today. First item is our 2022 annual report for the planning and ZBA boards. This is more or less required by the Michigan Planning and Enabling Act and the Michigan Zoning Enabling Act. Kind of gives you a brief synopsis of what the responsibilities are of the Planning Commission, the Zoning Board of Appeals, their membership, and a little preview, or I should say a synopsis of the 2022 year, number of permits, special use, site plan reviews, variances, and some goals for 2023 as well. Answer any questions or comments for you.
Did everybody get a copy of that?
It's on our iPad.
Yeah.
Oh, on our iPad, okay. I got it. I got it.
You gave us the-
Yep.
Same thing. So do you need anything from us out of this? Is this an FYI for us? Is
More of an FYI, maybe just a synopsis in the minutes that it was
Good.
presented and accepted or presented and reviewed.
any surprises on your end with it?
We did start off extremely busy last year. I thought we were in for, when it comes to zoning permits, I thought we were going to smash the previous year's mark of it. But later in the year, it did slow down. So we were up, not a huge number from the previous year, which is one thing that did stick out quite a bit to us. A lot of homes were built last year, just brand new homes. Availability and the price of materials, that was kind of surprising, at least from my standpoint. However, that's a good thing for the county. Kind of this year, we're off to that kind of a quick start with new homes being built as well too. So
We were surprised. We brought up in the meeting that we thought more smaller homes.
more smaller homes. We're getting a lot of calls for those. There's some interest out there for them. So
But I think only one was built because we passed that resolution for smaller, less square footage.
yes. Currently, I think we've only done one under the plan. I've spoken to quite a few individuals about those or the rules and regulations for them. So I expect to see some more of those this year, hopefully. I think there'll be a more practical. As you all know, the price of everything has gone up. So that boils down to the building side of it. You just can't build a whole lot for $40,000-$50,000 anymore. So, so I think those smaller square footages will help some people that wanna build. And if you look at the difference in the 320 square foot difference between the minimum square footage of what we used to allow and what we allow nowadays is a big number when you're looking at building a home. That's a 50, 60, maybe even $70,000 difference. So it might make might make homes affordable for some people that might not be able to afford something a little bit bigger.
And then item 2, zoning map amendment.
Zoning map amendment, this was Planning Commission, I believe it was 2 weeks ago. We had the map amendment request for retail use in Churchill Township. Very similar to a request we got the previous year, about a quarter mile down the road from the previous location and on the south side of M55. The Planning Commission unanimously denied the request for the zoning amendment because it was a spot zone. the use is not consistent with the other uses that are in that area. And just didn't seem like there was a need for it right now. At least I don't think that's the message we got from the public. So those zoning amendments, regardless if they're approved or not by the planning commission, actually come to the commissioners.
Commissioner Simmons.
And maybe you're talking about the same thing. Is that business gonna go out there by on 55 on dollar store or whatever they call it?
Currently now, no, because of the rezoning request was denied. It's not a use that's in the current zoning district that's there.
Thank you.
That's what he's referring to.
That's what I
The
thought.
other argument was that there is properties, what is it, 3 miles from that are already zoned
Correct,
the
correct,
correct way for this business.
correct.
Yep.
This first has to be voted by this board. They say that it's not gonna happen.
Correct.
It's an accurate statement. till
Correct,
the
right.
vote is taken.
This is a recommendation.
Right.
The planning commission's recommendation to the commissioners. That'd be the more accurate way to put it, yes.
Do you guys have any questions about this? Because this will be on our next meeting to vote on.
Did I read that they tried before to get in that area?
So they were looking, it was about a year ago last year, they were looking at the corner of 55 and Gerald Miller Road. The north, it would be the northeast corner. There's an empty lot there. At that time, the township was not in favor of it because of the traffic that was there. Planning commission, we looked at it and got some numbers from the road commission. It wasn't too terribly concerning. Craig could speak to this. Traffic really wasn't a concern for us. I mean, 1 week out of the year when the fair is going on, that traffic there is elevated. But the rest of the times of the year, it really isn't. But traffic wasn't an issue for us. It was very similar to this one or identical. There's just a lot of homes in that area too. So when you're gonna pop a retail use in the middle of neighborhoods where homes are, probably not the best idea. There's just that use. The retail use is gonna produce more traffic, more noise, more everything for that neighborhood. So
There's a commercial one across the street, but county's not that. Has authority to shut down a business.
there are a couple pre-existing businesses on M55, the corner Little Willie's.
Little Willie's?
And Jacksonville store down the road. Those were put in years and years and years ago. Jacksonville store, from what I've been told, has been there since the 40s. So that predates the zoning. One of the oldest special use permits that we have is actually for Little Willie's, when the previous owner owned it and started and established it. So those are actually in ag districts, and those times those were uses that were allowed in the ag district. Through the years as we've changed, that ag district now doesn't offer a ton of, it actually offers no retail uses. Those are all reserved for the business districts, the B1, the B2, the B3 districts. And it's a good idea to have similar type uses grouped together with other similar type uses. So they all deal with the same problem that you might have if you put them into like a residential. Better to keep them in their own areas. So, and the corner of 55 and 33, excuse me, is zoned B2 commercial. So there are areas in that township where they could potentially locate that would be a better fit from a use standpoint.
But and that conflicts with the idea that traffic is a big problem, because the corner of 55 and 33 like ranks number 4 in the county.
Right.
So one argument is it's too much traffic, but yet the corners are totally different.
And I get it.
Gerald Miller Road is like number 63 in the county, you know?
And I get it. I mean, once traffic numbers will change what you're going to pay for a piece of property as well too. I'm sure the property they are looking at doesn't sell for the same as a parcel would on the corner of 33 and 55 with all that traffic there. So,
I never know.
but you never know.
Well, you will never know if you don't allow it.
Correct. So, but a better area for them. I don't know why, as a business, you wouldn't want to be where there's more traffic. And possibly at a stoplight as well too, but
You're not gonna build a business on a dirt road that nobody lives on.
Right.
That's dead end. You build a business on a highway.
Right.
Where the traffic is.
And one other thing to note, when the planning commission does consider these, the notice that we use, it's for retail use. We don't get into the name on the building. We don't look at who it is and whose it's for. It's all about the use and how it affects the area where they're proposing to put in. So doesn't matter if it was this particular company or another one. It should be, and that's how it is being looked at the same way without that name on the building.
Questions?
I have a different question, not regarding that topic.
Any questions related to this? Because this has to be put on for resolution to come to us. Commissioner Mayhew? No? Yes.
I was at a meeting yesterday, the Commission on Aging, it was veterans and stuff. While I was there, that topic came up. And the people that live out there do not want a commercial building out there.
The overwhelming amount of public opinion we had on it was not in favor of the
In
use.
fact, they asked me questions about it.
There was numerous people that showed up at the meeting, and then there was a petition that we got a copy of, and
And there were some there for the veterans too.
For varying reasons, some reasons legitimate, others not so much legitimate.
did you have a question for Ryan?
Yeah, it's just a different
Go ahead.
topic. Have you seen a trend over the last number of years, more outside business, as in businesses, Southern Michigan, outside the state, reaching out to us, looking into possible areas of interest that would bring substantial jobs to the area? I mean, other than like, say Myers and stuff, are we seeing much of that or?
Not so much. More or less, it's either local businesses or like Meyer. Meyer would be the big one we've done recently. I know at the 212 exit, they've got a few businesses that have come in. The Starbucks, the Jersey Mike, I think there's an AT&T store going in there and another store in there, but not a whole lot of influx. We've seen, one in particular there on 55 is a business that was located, I think, in the Grand Rapids area, and they put in another office here. So, but not a ton of people from outside the state that I'm hearing from, except for individuals when it comes to solar power and wind power. So I am getting some calls about that. I think solar power is going to be on the forefront for a lot of communities in Michigan here this year and for the next few years. Wind power is starting to get a little bit more traction again as well too. So I don't know if it's because of incentives that the state government or the federal government is going to have for those, but there definitely is going to be a push for that as well here soon. So
Okay.
look for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan. Randy, come on up. Equalization report preview.
Apologize for being a little late this morning. Whoops. Because the
you.
meeting is so short on Tuesday for equalization, I was hoping to give you at least a preview of some of the numbers so that you could review them and maybe make it a little smoother when we do the equalization session next Tuesday. The values in the township or in the county, 16.96% increase in assessments. The taxable value went up by 6.99%. The first year I was here, we were looking at less than 1% increase, and it's been 2 or 3%. So I don't think it surprises anybody how much homes sales went up the last 2 years, and most of our values in the residential sector, and they've increased significantly. But with the 7% increase, there will be rollback fractions. So none of the villages, you won't receive 7% more revenues. The Headley, I haven't done the projections yet. We just finalized with the last township yesterday. So I'm working on those, but I'll be working in a rollback fractions after we equalize and work on that. But overall, the values have gone up substantially in the county this year. The assessed value is at 1.4 billion, and we were less than $1 billion 5 years ago. There is one township that did have a factor in the agricultural class, and so we will, part of the resolution, we will have to reduce value in that agricultural class. They came in at 51% instead of the 49 to 50 as prescribed by the state. And so what I gave you is a couple of the pieces of paper. The first form is a summary, and it shows you the increases and decreases for each class of property for each township. The summary just goes overall each township and city and gives you the percentage of increase or decrease. And then the second one does class by class for each unit, for the agricultural, commercial, industrial, and there's a significant increase in commercial this year. A lot of that is because of the Meyer store coming in, increased substantial values for the county. I mean, and personal property saw quite an increase. Myers itself brought in $4 million worth of personal property. It was reported that hadn't been here previously. So those are pretty significant increases.
Why the jump in Mills?
In Mills Township,
Yeah,
residential home sales, their initial studies came in at around 40%. And so the assessor had to raise about $30 million of assessed value in the residential class for Mills Township
wow.
based on sales over the last 2 years.
We just live in the wrong township, so.
Well, every township, and when we look at the studies, we break the sales down for each individual unit. And so some of the townships are more or less than the others. And that's the biggest driving factor of the increases per township. Horton Township, and I don't know why it's right here by West Branch, but theirs was like at a 47 ratio. A lot of the other townships around 40%, which meant the assessors had to increase significant amount of revenue.
Bill went up a lot too.
Yes, Hill has a lot of the lakes, Sage Lake and those sales. So Churchill Township, Mills Township and
West Branch Township.
Well, that's because of Myers, isn't it?
Hill Township,
Oh.
West Branch is Myers is in Ogemaw Township.
Oh, okay.
Why it's 26%.
Yeah, Myers was the Ogemaw Township, the big increase.
The highest.
Their residential increased as well, but the overall is because of the Myers development.
West Branch Township went down. It is down, didn't go down, but it's it's less than half my township.
What?
Well, percent change from previous year.
And, and part of that is,
26, you're at 10.
26%.
but you could have built
That number.
Myers in West Branch Township, and West Branch Township values are almost twice Ogemaw Township. So you would have not have seen percentage increase in West Branch Township like you would in,
Right.
because they've already got all the commercial development up, and.
The percentage is up, but not the actual number is not the highest,
No,
just the percentage.
Correct.
that means my taxes went up.
Everybody's taxes. went up.
Everybody's taxes went up.
I don't care about everything else. I just write a check from me.
Cap value was 5% last year. The CPI was actually 7.9. It's the first time ever we've been over 5% since 1994. And from the sales that we've seen continuing on through this year, they're probably going to be the same this coming year.
Do you think so? I don't.
One of the biggest drivers for the CPI is gasoline. So it depends what gas does this summer, whether it increases or decreases. Because the components that they look at are what does a normal family spend, say in a week, and it goes up or down since 1994. And so fuel is one of the biggest factors and when we've seen 2009 or 2010, we had a decrease, and it was because gas went up to 4 something a gallon and went back down to about 2.50. And so that subsequent year, there's a decrease in the inflation rate.
Questions? Do you need anything from us on this?
Not today. Tuesday, we'll have a resolution to adopt approving these numbers.
I have a question. I know we're gonna see on Tuesday, but I try to be optimistic with this real estate market, but I felt for the last few years, it's very obviously unsustainable. And you guys really forecast, that you see these continuing to rise? Because I really don't see that at all.
The number of sales, I think, are down slightly, but we're not seeing a decrease yet. I think when Ryan gave his report and people are starting to build new homes, building materials have dropped slightly. I know OSB's almost half what it was 2 years ago. And so people are starting to build again. And so I think that'll weigh into it. But I don't, it's so hard to predict. Nobody predicted the crash in 2008, 2009. That said, we really never saw the decrease here till about 2010 or 11. We're pretty stable as far as our values. We have a lot of retirees and whatnot. And so I don't know that we're going to see a huge drop, but so far we're not seeing a decrease in our sales. The numbers are down, but the values are holding, and we're still seeing them. Right now, they're selling for more money than they're assessed. Our sales period for this next year ended March 31st. That's why I'm saying I'm looking at an increase for next year as well, because unless something dramatically happens between now and October 1st, where we look at a 1-year sales study, then we would maybe have a decrease or something like that. But right now, the sales that happened, our sales periods are April 1st to March 31st. And the sales that we had in this past year were higher than the year before. And higher than the new assessments. When you look at these, like Mills Township going up at the percentage that it went up, they're still selling the deeds that we're recording right now are still higher than the ones that the assessments are at. So we're typically always behind.
It's gonna happen. It's just gonna take a little time. In my opinion.
It, like I say, after when things really started to crash down in Metro Detroit, 2009, everybody owned a cabin up here called the townships because their values just crashed. Nothing's worth anything in Metro Detroit. Our values held firm. We just slowed down. We didn't sell. And it literally took 3 years before it really to affect our sales up here. So.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Item C, Mike Lefebvre, friend of the court, related to Ottawa County Juvenile Detention Center bed rental agreement. Good morning, guys.
Morning, guys.
We've got two things on here. First of all is the Ottawa County Juvenile Detention Center agreement. Basically, what happened, we had to place a juvenile in Ottawa County, then a week later, they send us this. So I think Tim has sent it to the attorneys. We're waiting to hear back. We only have, right now, we have one young lady there. And she's just on a wait list to get into a different program. Their rate is a little higher than the ones we usually use. Bay County, Misaki, Isabella County. But this is the first time I've had to use Ottawa County, so I don't see it being a common placement, because I don't think they had openings for quite a while. They weren't taking out of county.
Where's Ottawa County?
I knew you were gonna ask
I don't
that.
know.
They're
It's
down-
on the shoreline
down
of
by Mus-
Like Zealand,
Where?
Holland.
Holland.
Okay,
Holland.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so obviously they're not optimal location and
Grand Rapids.
but like I say, we had this one young lady that we had to place there, and then they sent us this.
Now, why did we have to place her there?
Because there's no other places in the state for females.
Really?
Yeah.
It's the only,
Well, we had Isabella, we use Isabella, but they were full. So this just was this young lady was actually in a program. Vassar House, they closed down due to staffing, so they had to get rid of all their people. So we had to scramble and try to find a place for her, and this is where we found a place. She's on a wait list for a different treatment program, but in the meantime, she's kind of on holding right now until that opens up. She's number 12 on the wait list at Bay Pines, which is in Escanaba. So, but hopefully she won't be there that long. But again, this is something Ottawa County sent us she's been there for 3 weeks now, and they haven't been
We don't
Doing
have
that.
a choice. I mean,
Well,
In the regular detention bed or the specialized individual?
Regular. the 250, the regular.
Just the 250.
Usually, I think Isabella charges us 185, I think, some part right around
That's
there.
a
So,
pretty mid of the road amount.
so it's a little more expensive than we like to use, but
Oh, yeah.
hopefully she's not there that long, but
And we can't just threaten to go someplace else.
well, that's just it.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've had a girl placed there.
Everybody else gets to threaten us with
Um,
someplace else.
So I guess what I'm asking for is authorization, once the county attorney says it's all good, to have either have him or Jenny sign the agreement as necessary, but like I said, I don't anticipate this being a usual placement, because it's more expensive.
30 days.
She's, who knows? Like I say, the wait list, she's on the wait list for Bay Pines.
Yep.
And she's number 12 on the wait list. We just had a hearing on her yesterday. So it just depends on when those spots open up. They're also looking for other placements in the meantime, but every place is in the same boat with wait lists. So I know she had an interview for a place in, I want to say Muskegon or Kalamazoo. She had an interview yesterday to see if they would take her, and I haven't heard the answer to that.
but I mean, at least even signing this contract, we have more options. It is what it is. We don't
Yeah,
have to.
it's, the trip that, yeah, say Ottawa is the only place that would take her. So
Right.
at this point, and she's a high maintenance, she needs supervision.
She needs to be where she's at.
She needs to be where she's at. She's not a candidate, or she started out, I think, across the street. But she just needed more work.
Can
So,
you let us know by Tuesday if our two friends are okay with it?
Yeah, even if they haven't finished their review yet, we put at the bottom of all those resolutions, subject to approval as to form by the attorney, which gives us the green light. So that will happen regardless. If it comes Wednesday, it's still good. We
Okay.
just hold off signing it until we get that.
second item is our basic grant. We're requesting a modification, not in the amount at all, but just in the ways we can use it. Right now, it's for basically counseling. We've submitted a modification to the state to allow transportation costs to get these kids to the counseling. And we're not even sure if we need a signature, but in case we do, we want the authorization to do it. So again, it's not changing the amount. What is it? 56,000 something. So we're not just, we want authorization to sign a modification to allow us to use it for transportation costs of the juvenile. They say it doesn't change the amount. We don't even know if we need that signature, but better safe than sorry to be able to have it, get it done. If we actually do need it. So we asked for, again, permit. I think Tim signed the last one. So either permission for board chair or county administrator to sign that amendment if it's necessary, and we don't even know if it is. So again, doesn't change the amount, doesn't change anything. That's what we can use it for. So
You should be able to use it wherever you need it.
sorry.
You should be able to use it wherever you need it.
We received a request from Partners in Change to modify the program, which is our preventative program in the high school, to start including parents. In that, we weren't really funded to do that before, but if you remember, we were here not too long ago when that basic grant increased by about $40-some thousand, gave us an extra pool of money. In order to try to use that amount, they strongly encouraged us to allow parents to participate so that the parents are getting some counseling to parenting skills, whatnot. And that's why the conversation happened about transportation, not only to involve the parents, but also to bridge the gap for the summer months when the kids aren't in school, so we can keep it going. As long as they're going to give us that extra money and we have the money to fund it, at 100% reimbursement, let's get the parents involved in the counseling with the kids as well. So.
Absolutely. Questions?
To go along with that, for getting the parents involved, I think that's extremely important. I think we need to do a lot better job as parents in whole, but parents that have these children, they need help as well. Is that something that most of our county juveniles that are being placed, are their parents getting involved as well?
Most of the kids I have in counseling, there's a family component. There's individual counseling and family counseling. Most of them have both, where the counselors will meet with the kids then the counselors will meet with the parents and together and try to work that out. So pretty much all of my counseling orders have both family and individual counseling. So, and I'm assuming that's very similar across the state. I would think, I don't know, but we've had good luck. Like I say, not every case works, but they say we just want to be able to get the authorization to get these kids transported to counseling and back and forth during the summer, because usually right now the counselors meet them at the school. But when there's no school, or on weekends, that way we can keep it running. And October 1st, hopefully we'll have that grant will be renewed and we'll keep that program kind of going. And in the future, we'll obviously write that into the original grant. So, but again, we don't even know if we need it, but need to change another signature, but just in case we do, we want to cover our bases.
I just have one more question. Currently, how many county juveniles do we have placed outside the county?
How many what?
How many juveniles do we have placed outside?
Oh, boy. Probably a dozen, maybe.
Dozen.
I mean, that's just a kind of a guess, because we have some place through us, some place through the Department of Health and Human Services. I would say, well, I don't know, maybe not even a dozen. I can think of half dozen right off the top of my head, but I'm sure there's other ones, so probably about 12. I can get that figure exactly to you here.
Yeah, that'd be-
I have court and 1 minute ago, and I can check it and get it back to
That'd be
you.
great. Thank you.
Commissioner Scott, any questions?
Yeah, question for Tim. Is this in the budget?
Yeah, right now. Yeah, but really cool thing about the whole program is there's so many checks and balances. You know, Michael's very good at making sure that the forms that the state needs, particularly when it comes to budgeting and so forth, are up to date. It's not just we adopt it in October and then wait till September to look at it. There are many steps along the way where he has to make those reports.
Every month I have to do that.
You might recall last year, and I want to say it's July, it might have been August, when Michael brought a budget amendment, an adjustment based on, some adjustments within the different lines that were involved. Ended up saving the county anyway, several, tens of thousands of dollars by doing it. That frankly I would endorse as being the norm for budget management, the way he goes about that. So yeah, to answer your question, yes, it's in the budget, and I am very confident if that ever changes, they will be back here to let you know.
And right now, every month we have to send a report into the state that says how much we've used of this grant, how much we've used of the child care fund, how much reimbursement. Every month we gotta do that, and Lansing approves it, and so there's checks every month that make sure we're on track. So
Commissioner Simmons, any questions?
No.
Thank you, guys.
I got just one.
I'm sorry.
This is a private institution.
I'm sorry.
This is a private institution. It's county.
It says it is, and it's not county owned, it says, but it's managed by the 20th Circuit Court. So it sounds like it's a private managed. Because that's what it says when I read the contract. I don't know much.
Because I've been reading some stuff about MTA, or not MTA, but county. And other sources that the state is doing things to really regulate private homes
Right.
out of business. And
Well, if they do that, I hope they provide their own.
I don't know
So
where we're gonna take them.
I'm not looking at your article, but there are two different classes of placement for youth, right? We've talked about that, secure detention facilities and residential treatment facilities.
Right.
We are seeing like Vassar House closing is a residential treatment facility. So I think that may be where the regulations are coming in, where those private entities are closing down
But we're sending people to those too, right?
as we can find
As
them.
we could find them.
Right.
We had at the Vassar House that closed down, we had four girls there. And we had to find places for all of them. And my understanding, it was a staffing issue, lack of supervision. I haven't got the whole story as to why they closed down.
Right.
But we're seeing that there's another one that closed down a year or two ago too. It's just, Especially it hurts when it's for the girls, because we're already lacking on the female programs. So hopefully the state figures something out. And finds staffing or does what they have to do, I guess, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item D, Jeff Nichols, Veteran Affairs Director, related to appointment to Veteran Affairs Committee. Jeff?
Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
All right. Yep. So before you have the package for Mike Thorne. Quite a long package. I didn't realize it was so long, but anyways, at the Veterans Alliance meeting held last week, they went ahead and nominated Mike Thorne. He was the only application that we received for the position. We advertised it for 3 weeks and we didn't get any other applications, and which is not surprising. So that's normal, because most of the veterans know if the Veterans Committee actually has an opening or not. So it doesn't surprise us we didn't get any applications in. But the Alliance did nominate him as to serve on the committee for the next 4 years. So that's what you have in front of you. And we just need to have, I get Tim a new resolution letter there, and I see I had the adopted date wrong on the bottom of it. So I sent it to your email already. So other than that.
Is he taking the place of somebody?
Nope. He's just continuing on. So it's just a renomination.
Oh, okay. A reappointment. Then.
Yeah,
Okay.
renomination. And
Okay.
then also at that Alliance meeting, they nominated our new, they selected our new 2023 Veteran of the Year, which is Charlie Puzak, an Army veteran, National Guard retiree. So very active within the veterans community. So excellent choice that the Alliance made this year. So more on that will come out later on.
Okay. Questions, comments?
Well, I'm totally in favor of Mike Thorne.
I think we all, Mike's very active in the community.
Yes, he is. You see him out everywhere. Whenever anything's going on, he's usually involved also. So he was a former Veteran of the Year also. So, but another good choice, and it's a volunteer position. So we always get asked, is there a position opening? Well, if one of my Veterans Committee members decide to retire and get off the committee, usually that's when the actual opening occurs. But like I said, most veterans realize that the members that are on the committee usually stay there until they just need to move on to other aspects of their life.
Thanks, Jeff.
All righty, you're welcome. Thank you.
Tim, you'll put that on for resolution.
Yep.
Item 5A, discussion items, opioid funding for jail scanner. Come on up, guys. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. It's Brian pulling his paperwork together. I did put on the iPad that Appendix E that came with the settlements that defined what could be used or what these funds could be used for. I wanted to summarize it a little bit more for you, but ran out of time. But just quickly, got 2 sections in there. You have Section A, or Schedule A, which is called core strategies, and Schedule B, which is called approved uses. It's just broken up into those 2 sections. Key is that the statement right at the very beginning paragraph states that priority shall be given to core strategies. And so for that particular section, I would draw your attention to item F on page E3, where it talks about treatment for incarcerated populations. So this gets the first door open to use of these funds. But I think even more to the point, in Schedule B under approved uses, 3 areas in particular. The first on E8, to address the needs of criminal justice involved persons. And under there's a sub-statement about intervention tasks. And I think this is definitely an intervention task in helping to meet the needs of the criminal justice involved persons. But 2 other sections, even more to the point. Section G on page E11 talks about prevention of misuse of opioids. If we are able to identify an individual coming into the correction facility actually has an opioid on their person, and we're able to identify that, that's going to prevent the misuse clearly within the correctional facility itself, and also greatly reduce the county liability that would come along with what would happen if those opioids had been distributed. And then item H, even more to the point, hits the bullseye, frankly, to prevent overdose deaths and other harms and harm reduction. And frankly, that's what this is all about. We're going to prevent that usage from going on within the correctional facility. I think it's a very firm foundation if the board decides to go with this purchase within the opioid list of uses, and it certainly meets the intent, particularly of that Schedule B.
Thank you.
Somebody's got the floor. Mr. Roder?
On the note of being able to prove somebody coming in the facility, we have somebody that's incarcerated right now that's doing a year for smuggling opioids in the jail and sharing them with inmates in the back. We also had an inmate that was getting pulled over. Well, he's no longer with us, but he got pulled over and he had drugs on him in a bag or whatever he had, and he swallowed it instead of getting caught with it. We had him for 4 or 5 days to where that finally burst open, and the officers caught him acting weird and goofy, and he finally told them that he had swallowed that. And of course, we took him to the hospital. He ended up on life support and stuff, made it through, was on the street now. So that's just another instance. We've had 4 or 5 over the last 3 or 4 years to where inmates, especially ones getting sentenced that know they're getting a lot of time, they'll smuggle the stuff inside their body. They'll come into the jail, and we don't, there's no way we'll know it without the scanner until they use it, until they share it with the other inmates in the back. And to me, doing this every day, it's only a matter of time to where somebody does that, and we're gonna have fentanyl or something, and we're gonna have inmates that are dead. Or one that overdoses in the middle of the night. And we don't catch it in time.
I don't see the cost on this. Did I miss it?
I don't think there is a cost on this. I have the estimate I got in April of last year. We'll have to get in
They
there.
have it.
Huh?
No matter how much, we just gotta have it.
Well, I don't know. if
What
That's
was
true.
that estimate?
This estimate here was 159,000.
And that obviously triggers the RFP process. So if we do this.
It also has other additions on for warranties and maintenance and stuff.
Is this something that majority of jails have?
I wouldn't say the majority, but a lot of them are getting them. We have 6 or 7 different counties in the state that now have them, and they're purchasing them every day. A lot of them used ARPA money to buy them. It's a huge tool. We stop them before they ever get into jail. They walk in, they step into this thing. If you look on it, you'll go to page 2, you can see the scan. If you go to page 3, you'll see a scan, you'll see a dark thing in the middle there. That bag of drugs that's right underneath it, that's what he had inside him, that person. So it was caught before he ever entered the secure area of the facility. At that point, you turn him around, the officer has to take him back to the hospital, get a search warrant, search it, get it taken out. It's gonna save lives eventually. It's not a matter of if it has this win, it's gonna happen. This will be a huge tool to stop that from taking place.
Thoughts, Commissioner Simmons?
How much do we have in the opioid fund?
Right now, just over 372,000. And that will grow. There are supposed to be payments. I don't recall if they're quarterly or monthly, but there'll be other payments that will continue to come in.
Any other questions, Commissioner?
No, I just think it's a good thing to have.
Commissioner Mayhew?
If we use the opioid, we will have none of the ARPA money go to this.
Correct.
So
Are you in favor of it?
I'm good with it. What else are we gonna spend that money on?
I think that's where we're starting to get our
Right.
feet wet, but I don't disagree with that. It looks like we can spend our money on this. I know I wouldn't want to be the individual doing the physical search. So if this takes much timelier and probably much safer on numerous aspects. So Commissioner Wiltie.
Yeah, I definitely support this, especially with the we have. I did get a nice tour of the jail last week. It opened my eyes to some things, and obviously not only protect our inmates, but also protect our staff. How do we know, like, what type of turnaround this would be
To get it?
one of these machines replaced?
When I got the first estimate, last April, it was 6 to 8 weeks. What that is now, because more people are getting it, especially with this opioid money and ARPA money, I'd have to contact him again.
Yeah.
But the guy's willing to even come up and do a demonstration. So that you can see it if you'd like to.
Also, I mean, you guys are gonna need a demonstration, obviously, some education.
Yeah, well, they're gonna come up and train us, but if you wanted to see actually what it does, they would come up and do a demonstration for you.
I had a question. You've never had one of these over there, correct?
No. We have no scanning device other than metal detector.
You do have a metal detector.
We have a hand-wand one for the back and a walk one through for the front, yes.
Commissioner Scott?
You wanted a committee to do this. You wanted 13 people on a committee.
We haven't decided how many,
Well, you had a whole list and it was suggested to reduce that list, but you guys didn't want to reduce the list. You wanted 13 people on this committee. Where are we at on this?
that's not true neither. What we did is we sent information out there to see who was interested, and we're still gathering information. It hasn't been brought to us as far as the feedback of whom all were.
So
We
you just,
provided a
you
list.
want to bypass that now. And
I don't think that that's necessarily true.
well, if you buy this with opiate money, you are bypassing the committee.
The committee's not formed yet.
What? The committee idea. That,
Right. But this money is going to be over an extended period of time, so I don't necessarily agree
okay,
with
I
that.
get it. I'm in favor of buying the thing, but you guys wanted a committee to discuss spending that money, and now you're just turning around, just jumping the gun.
I see your point of view, but again, I don't think that that's 100% true. I think the committee is still
Of
moving
course, it
forward.
would be 100%.
How are we jumping the gun here, Commissioner Scott?
Well,
It's taking time to get this committee together.
all right.
This is a very important topic. We have these funds. We have these big liabilities in place. I just don't understand why you're making such a big deal out of this.
Well, I didn't think the committee needed to be so big and needed really be that much.
Well, we don't really even know how big the committee is gonna be right now. We're still
Right.
trying to get
Information.
participation.
Yeah.
See who's interested.
But I would think the committee thing, that's only to enlighten us, bring more options to the table to see what else we can use this money for.
Okay.
This is something we have right now and we can make this
Bring
decision.
it up. I'll vote for it. Bring it up. But my point is, you guys want the committee.
And we're working on that.
To see what the needs of the community are from actual frontline
If
workers.
we keep spending the money, we won't have to worry about.
Over what period of time are we looking at the money being distributed?
Roughly 18 years.
So it'd be at 18 years. The former committee to make more decisions.
Yeah.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I agree we need to move forward with the committee, but as far as this, I also agree with Commissioner Wiltz. I think that this is a liability to the county. I mean, this is I think these pictures speak of that in words, pictures that probably.
And then how much?
We
I think
probably
it's-
didn't need to see, but, and this isn't something that's gonna happen
Sorry.
overnight. You have to put the bids out there, you have to come back to us, the turnarounds, we're looking at
Well-
probably 3 to 6 months out,
Well, wait a minute, bidding.
correct?
I don't know how many companies there are that make these, so I don't know how many bids you're gonna have.
But we have to try.
Yeah,
That's part of the
absolutely,
process.
absolutely. And Tech 84 is one so far. That is placed a bid. They'll have to do it again. Obviously, they only guarantee these bids for 30 days and they redo them again. So
84 was correct.
it's Tech 84. That's
Oh.
the name of the company.
Oh, okay.
It should have all the information on the front of there if you want
Just
to.
accept the price.
Yeah,
That's
we'll have to get a new estimate from them and any other companies that we find that has something similar that'll do the same thing.
And I think
Won't
it's
be
gonna
over
have to be,
372,000.
it's gonna have to be
God, I hope
also
not.
similar to what we compared with the body scanner there as far as maintenance, service calls, other. costs.
Right. This estimate that I have here is old. Like I said, they'll have to renew it. They got the basic cost on the front, and then on the second page, they have maintenance schedule. They'll get further maintenance and everything, which is obviously
Warranty.
additional costs, warranty and all that, yes. But this is over 30 days. They're gonna want it. You're gonna have to do another. They only guarantee these for 30 days.
When did you get that estimate?
This quote was last April.
A year ago.
Yeah,
That you guys came to us, I think, requested from ARPA funds.
We did.
So we were given this information previously.
I'm still in contact with this company quite often. They email every time the new county gets one and different things they find. So I talk to this guy quite often, actually. That's why I know there's several counties in Michigan that have it. And there's several counties across the country that has it. It's a huge tool. I mean, a huge tool. And not only when they walk in, it takes their picture, it scans them, it's perfect for evidence. If they got something on them, it takes their temperature, it does everything. So, and it's programmable. You sit right there and you do it.
Time saving alone.
3.8,
Liability.
yeah, 3.8 seconds it takes to do a scan when they step into it.
We just gotta make sure with $159,000, we are getting, again, maintenance warranty that this machine is gonna be of use for a significant period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
So we'll start that process. Do we need what do we?
No, at
Put
this
out
point,
RFP?
that the cost triggers the RFP process, and that's automatic in your purchasing policy. So at this stage, having heard this discussion, we'll issue the RFP. It does not compel you to make a purchase. So you may get 10 replies and you don't like any of them. You'll have the right to reject all of them if you want to. So you're not committing anything yet. So yeah, this is the process to get you to the point where you can make that call.
Anything else,
I'll
guys?
give you those two.
Thank you, sir.
That's the, all right. Thank you.
Item 5B, transit. Did you have something?
I just said thank you.
Transit millage?
Provided you an update on that fiscal summary. The 2022 figures are now the audited figures, so you've got a firm number. I know there was a lot of attention paid to the net position, the unrestricted net position figures, so you've got a reliable number there to work with. The deadlines are fast approaching. If you want this on the August ballot, or even if you want it at all, I mean, that's where the board left it. So there was no commitment one way or another. But if you do want to do August, we've got to move now on getting resolutions passed, getting language and getting in place so that it's approved in time.
The two individuals that are on the transit committee, can you guys enlighten us with any information?
I mean, basically, we can kind of see where we're at here. I mean, financially, I don't really see us in a really bad position with the transit. Again, we never know year from year, state and federal funding, but if you look back at it, it's been pretty consistent. So, we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know exactly that funding will come in like it should. So, I mean, we are taking a little bit of a chance there. I know I'd like to get your guys' insight on this. I know we have discussed the fact of the possibility, if we were going to do a special millage, right now the EMS authority is in a really bad position where there would be that possibility that that special millage could be split cost wise. So I think that's going to be another conversation that we're going to need to have. But right now, financially, I mean, the transit is not in a terrible position.
Is there any other special villages or anything that you've heard come up?
No. Paul comment?
Shelters discussed possibly going for a village shelter operations as a nonprofit. I don't know. So apparently they have the ability to do that. No.
It's okay. I can
Go ahead.
address this. The process would be that the county, you as the board would propose the millage to the voters and just simply stating for care of animals, whatever that language might state. And then you annually or, life of the millage, however you want to decide it, should the millage pass, you would then contract with that vendor to provide that service for that cost. You don't name the vendor in the millage because you want to leave your options open. Obviously, if another shelter were to move into the area and you felt there was need to split the money or send it elsewhere, that's the board's call at that point. So it would not be the nonprofit asking for the millage. It would be the county board asking for the millage. Should it pass, the next step is then for you to enter into a contract for whatever those services are. If it's just intake, if it's care of a certain way, maybe you want to spay and neuter any animal that comes in, whatever, we would work on that with the language so the voter knew what he or she was voting on.
Commissioner Simmons?
But this millage is just, my understanding, this millage was one that was renewed, we just
Was
replaced,
not renewed.
that we missed.
Right.
So it's really not extra funds we're really asking for here for the people. We just want to put this back in place because it was being paid for before. So it wouldn't be an increase, basically. It would be redoing that, millage that we did before, so we can just continue it. And I think we need to continue that millage.
Is there any way, so if it's not put out, if we don't do a special election, is there any way to continue that same mill, because then the other one will be expired as well. Is there any way to continue that same millage, or is it gonna have to be rewrote?
It would be publicized as a new millage if it were allowed to expire. Now it
Yes,
becomes a new millage.
But it has expired, right?
this one has, yes.
Right.
The revenue for this year was collected in, I believe it's in December, if I'm not mistaken. This would be a question for our attorney, but logic would suggest you could still this year have a renewal language up until that millage will be collected. So even to the November election, theoretically, it would be a renewal, but I want to get the attorney opinion before we went with that language, or whether or not you'd have to even now say that it's new.
Mr. Mayhew? Are you in favor of a special election, or would you rather wait till the next general election?
I'd rather wait, but it don't matter.
I personally would rather wait too, especially with seeing this funding that's there currently. I'm not comfortable going back and asking. Yes, I understand it would come from the transit, possibly other EMS or whatever else may be out there, but that's still our constituents paying for the special election.
The people that I've talked to at the townships, all this news stuff, they're getting crammed. They don't know how the election's gonna fold out anyways.
Correct. I've heard numerous, the extended days, 7 or 9 days or whatever. There's numerous townships that are voicing concerns about that. Getting volunteers to sit there and the new guidelines. So I personally would rather wait. I'm not in favor of constituents paying for a special election. I understand it would come out of their budget, but at the end of the day, the constituents are still paying for it.
Can I make one more comment?
Please.
I have been spending a lot of time on this, and I've been back and forth on my feelings of whether we should or shouldn't. And I do agree with some of your concerns. But one more thing we do have to keep in mind, and I had probably 3 weeks ago, so I brought this up. The previous maintenance schedule out at the current transit building really has not been in place. And, there is substantial work that needs to get done. And I told Brendan, our soon-to-be committee that, I'm going to be working on getting prices. I mean, we're talking overhead doors, we're talking roof, water issues, lift issues, which lift issues could also, of course, create, the possibility of someone getting hurt. And we don't want that to happen. So, and these are some pretty big expenses. So due to the lack of a consistent maintenance schedule that I can tell the short time I've been here, there is going to be some substantial amount of money needed to get spent to be able to keep that building working properly. And that's something that is going to need to get fixed sooner than later. So we are going to have costs there. I don't know what those costs are, but we're talking, hundreds of thousands of dollars for between overhead doors and a new lift. So there are going to be some substantial costs there that need to happen and need to happen in a pretty quick manner.
Commissioner Scott?
Yeah, surplus of $363,000 last year. We sit on $1 million unrestricted fund balance. Is that correct? That's what I'm reading.
Yep.
In 2020, the director came here and said he was destitute, that he had 0.3 of a mil coming in and he needed more because the sky has fallen and something could happen. So, and I bought right into it. I said, absolutely, we got to do it. We passed the 2.3 of a mil again. And if you look at the fund balance each year, they didn't spend any of that. What we raised on the county from the taxpayer was 0.3 of a mil, which is basically just over $300,000. Each year since 2020, it's 392,000, 424,000, 363,000. We raised a millage that didn't need to be raised. The people in this county have paid 0.3 of a mil for operations that's just set in the bank. I feel bad because I was a proponent of it. And we didn't need it. The fund balance grew every year. We put it, we put the question to the voters for that. Now, in a year ago or 2 years ago, we looked at fund balances after COVID. And we froze. How many millages did we freeze for a year?
Mhm.
And because we didn't want to overtax people.
Mhm.
The question for the original 0.3 will come up. Well, the additional 0.3 is what's active right now. That question will come up in 24. I would be in favor of maybe increasing that to 0.4 or 0.5. They don't need 0.6. And then put that question on the, I'd be in favor of increasing that 0.3 up a little bit and putting that on the ballot in 24, but
So you're not in favor, just to summarize.
to
you're not-
summarize, I'm not in favor of putting on a special millage now. We got $1 million in the bank.
Right, but I think, I hear you and I agree with you, but I think also what Commissioner Wilson just explored on is maybe with the lack of committee that has been there and there were some staffing issues and some other things that were going on at the transit. Hopefully with the steps that we've taken moving forward, this money's maybe is needed, just hasn't been spent on maintenance, upkeep, that kind of thing. So getting Saturdays up and running, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Sounds like staffing wise, they're up and going pretty good right now.
We're getting close, but to point off of what you're saying, and we want to make sure that, we know this, it's not like this money was, obviously wasn't spent, so it's not like it was spent, you know, not in the correct manner. We do know that, you know, there were some things that needed attention to there, and now that we're starting a board, we're, you know, getting more consistent with these things. We know we have substantial amount of spending that needs to happen, and needs to happen soon, so we just need to keep that in mind.
I'm not in favor of the special election. You're not, correct, Commissioner Scott? Are you, just so we know whether or not we need to move forward with this or not? Commissioner Wiltie?
I mean, I wish I had some better numbers on what it's gonna take to get the building back into place, but I'm still pretty happy to see with where we're at. And
The answer.
I know you're looking for an answer.
$1 million to build a nice new building and curb all your problems. You can't tell me that the repairs for that is gonna exceed $1 million.
No.
Because we're projecting a fund balance this year.
I'm letting him
I think
finish.
I think probably I agree that hold off on the special.
Commissioner Simmons?
No, when you talk about the special, you say not in August, but it can be put on in November, right?
Either or. That's considered a special.
Okay, the reason I think it should be on there, and we've got a building to build. And we got a grant for that, and the grant's not gonna nearly cover the cost of that building. Where are we gonna get the money for that?
Looks like out of funds.
So we're going from repairs to building a building or,
We
Well, this
don't,
is for the buses. This isn't,
okay,
this is for the washing the buses, this is for housing the buses. This is so, and it saves a lot of time. You don't have to, because when you clean off a bus, you have to clean the top and everything off. And it just saves time for the bus drivers to clean them off. It saves the buses because they'll be in their wash and we can't get those same, those bodies. What were they made? A fiberglass.
Yeah.
We can't get those bodies anymore, metal bodies now. I don't know what that building's gonna cost by the time it's all done, but we're gonna need is it gonna cost $1 million more? No, probably not, but if buses break down, you got problems like the buildings need some repairs, the one they've got now. It's all gonna cost money. I think you lost the millage because it wasn't renewed when it should have been. I think it should be renewed.
Commissioner Mayhew, we have 3 no's and 1 yes. What's your opinion? Special election or no?
no.
Okay, there's an answer. Thank you. Correct, Tim?
Yes.
Item.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah,
What, do you know what that will do with EMS?
Well, they I mean, EMS, like I've stated, is in a really tough position right now. I mean, I think there's some big talks that need to happen. Figure out what direction we're gonna head there. But for EMS right now to spend $30,000 for a special election. And we're not even really that optimistic of where it's gonna go. Be a lot to swallow right now. I mean, I'd like to ask, Paul's the chairman. Paul, what's your?
I concur, it'd be a tough conversation for EMS to go on their own. But that's the status of EMS. Financially, be able to fund a special election going independent.
Why is EMS here, not here discussing this with us? If
Well, I just was wondering because EMS said if transit did go on for the specials, they would. So
they should be here pushing, encouraging. And giving
Well,
more details, I guess.
I mean, I agree, but I'm here, Paul's here. EMS is in a bad position and something's gonna have to happen. I mean, we just got the audit 3 weeks ago. And they made it very clear that our cash position is not good at all.
Well, EMS is not a component of this county. It's outside. It's an authority on its own outside. Geez, if they would have stayed with the county, then maybe we could afford it. But, you know, they're the ones that opted to be outside of the county. They didn't want to be a part of it. The county was putting the screws to them. Hey, so they're on their own. Make your own business decisions. You didn't want the county to do it for you.
Item C, inmate housing. You guys got the floor? Who's got the floor here? Come on up, guys. Don't be shy. Come on.
What's this now?
Inmate housing, item C.
So are we taking this off the table?
Yeah, there was 4 no's and 1 yes.
The request, I believe, is law enforcement committee asked that we contact these other counties
Right.
and come up with a.
That's all we're reviewing then.
Depends on where you take the discussion.
Okay.
So, but just to quickly explain that
Okay.
graphic that you have, columns 2 through 7 represent the questions that came out of law enforcement committee. So the questions were, how many inmates do you take, or do you take inmates from other counties? If yes, how many? What is your current capacity? Do you have a fee for inmates that you take from out of county? And is your facility approved by the Department of Corrections? Now, to fill out this request, the request was to contact the adjacent counties, and there were 8 counties that were adjacent to us. To round this out, I was able to, by population, determine that there were 4 other counties in the state that were within 10% of our population. So I've added those counties just for that information. We've got a map on the lower right that gives you an idea of where those counties are. Also, just using information that's available publicly, I was able to find the annual jail expenditures for each of those counties, the annual revenue generated from those facilities, and then determine the percent of the total cost of the jail as a percentage of the general fund. So that gives you an idea perspective wise, which counties are committing a larger share of the general fund to the jails. Able to calculate the average cost per inmate per day using the same formula that our auditors used, and I'll come back to that here in a second. Then you have the average cost per day at capacity. So obviously our capacity numbers are generally larger than what our current population numbers are, and that just in some cases like ours, for instance, our capacity is roughly double what our average population is. So you can see the difference now between that number and the actual cost per day per inmate that we have. And then finally, the annual cost per capita, which I think is probably one of the most beneficial calculations on here. It's that per capita, what the taxpayer is having to put into this. And that's sort of an even, it's common definition across all counties. Now, on the calculation about the average cost per inmate per day, note number 4 gives you the formula that our auditors used to get that cost per inmate per day. So in effect, it's the expenditures minus the revenues divided by the average population, the average daily population that our facilities have. were it me putting this together, I would not include the revenue number because the cost is the cost. That's it. There's no, the revenue coming in is fine and it's a good number to know. But the cost is frankly not impacted by that, that the cost is what it is. I mean, each of these facilities has a cost for personnel, a cost for supplies for the facility and so on. But to be consistent, we went ahead and used the auditor's formula, and that's how we came up with that cost per day. And the key is that we use the same formula across all of them. And rather than insert my opinion, let's just use the formula that our auditor already uses so that you get a number that you can use. Now, about the data, when we did the survey with the 7 questions or whatever that was that came from the committee, we called. Actually, Kelly called and spoke to somebody at each of these counties to get the information. Of the 12 counties, 10 of them were very cooperative, but 2 of them were a little apprehensive about giving us any information. They wanted us to send an email or submit a FOIA request, and clearly we could not turn that around in time for today's meeting. So to substitute, in this case, we're talking about, I believe it's Gladwin County and I believe Benzie is the other one. I see the 2 unknowns that are in there. The numbers that you see in there, in each of the cases, you have a jail capacity number, even though the county didn't give us that number, and was able to find a resource online that appeared official enough, had a state tag on the website or something that made it appear credible. So we put an asterisk next to those numbers. Benzie and Gladwin, just put an asterisk on those numbers. They were generated from another source, not a source that was inside the facility itself. But that got us, I think, the information that we needed to fill out the table so that you have an idea of what our comparable and adjacent counties are doing.
Questions? Commissioner Scott?
Well, I mean, it poses a lot of questions. They're all over the board on fees. Capacities, the reasons why certain counties are contracting out. We see that in the notes, they don't have facilities. They're kind of like us with childcare. We don't have any facilities, so we got to pay whoever, whatever they charge, right? And we don't get to threaten that you can go someplace cheaper. Of course, they got opportunities to go. Kalkaska's got opportunities to go a place cheaper, but they don't want to. They want to spend more money farther away, which poses the question why. I mean, Crawford's charging $15. Their jail's now full. Not even close, half. And it's the next county. Why wouldn't you go there? So it's not a money matter now. We've heard this money matter question. Oh, they'll go someplace else because they're cheaper. Well, they're half the price and they're not going there. So is it money? Or does the sheriffs don't get along?
Do we know that answer?
What?
Maybe. Do we know that?
Well, I know you don't care, but I mean, why wouldn't they go there?
Well, first of all, this Crawford number is not accurate.
Oh, it's not accurate.
No. I don't know who gave it to them, but they gave it an accurate number.
Came right from Crawford County.
Yeah. Somebody lied.
The
to me.
horse's mouth.
Somebody lied in a sheriff's office. Somebody lied. Nobody lies in a sheriff's office.
Oh.
Commissioner Wiltie?
What's that, our case?
So I've been, a couple weeks ago, I asked some questions, just trying to figure out more numbers and how this whole system works. And I feel that I've educated myself enough to pretty much realize what we have is we have a jail, one of the largest jails in the area. And the best thing we possibly can do right now as a county is try to maximize the amount of people in the jail. That's what I'm taking from this, from what I'm seeing. So my opinion and my stance is we should bring the Kalkaska inmates in. And why we're gonna have the jail there, it's fully operable where it's at, no matter if there's 3 people or if there's 142, whatever our number is, 144. I feel the best case for the county is to have as many inmates as we possibly can. That's where I'm at.
Oh, yeah, up to that. I don't disagree. The only thing that I'm looking at this graph that's disappointing to me is you got the 2 counties that are fairly average daily population close to us, which is according to this graph, that's Roscommon and Osceola. Their annual jail expenditures are significantly lower than ours. Our annual jail expenditures is the highest on this chart by quite a bit.
There's a couple of reasons for that.
Okay,
One, Roscommon doesn't have transportation. Their deputies do all their transporting. 2, they're not set up the same. Way we're set up, the way we have to man it is the payroll. They don't have near the employees. They can operate their jail with less employees just because of the physical layout. So their payroll is going to be significantly less than ours. That's just the way the building was built, the way it was laid out is the way we have to operate it. The state told us how many people we have to have, and that's what we do. That's where you're going to find the differences in their payroll and the transportation team that they don't have. They don't even have transportation that does court like we do. Our transportation team do court. They have people that are deputies that actually go over and do their court.
what about Osceola? I mean,
Osceola,
we're
I'm not-
$1 million more over than them, and they're 68 average daily population, and we're 72, and we're $1 million higher than them on expenditures.
I don't know how their layout is, but I'm sure a lot of it's going to be payroll again. Up till COVID, we averaged 115 people a day. We had basically a full house most of the time. That 72 population has gone down since that started. If you go back the years before that, you'll see that population was way up there. They changed some laws, which they stopped lodging for driving unsuspended, some other things that they used to lodge for, we no longer lodge for. So those people aren't coming to jail. So it gives us more beds to rent out, basically.
I'm in favor of this as well, but I really think we need to look at those expenditures. And I know that's going to be further conversation in the upcoming week.
Yeah, at one
So-
point I'd make, is look at that jail capacity number in the third column. And you see we're at 144, Osceola's at 77, Roscommon's at 96. That's the foundation number the state's going to use to determine how many personnel you need to operate your facility. And if we're that much larger than those counties, it would make sense that our expenses would be higher too, because we are staffed up for that many beds. But a question I would have, just because I don't know the answer, is if we decided as a county to take that 144 number down to, let's say, 100, would the state adjust what they would suggest as our required minimum staffing to do that? Now, I'm not saying it's a good idea, but I just one of those ideas or thoughts that pops into my head as I'm looking at these numbers. I mean, is that even an option? I don't know the answer.
With the way classification is done, see how you could do it. You'd be putting different class inmates together when they're supposed to be kept apart.
I thought that's the way that it was built, was that tripod system was supposed to be, and I know we brought the state in, I recall of that.
Yeah.
But was for minimal staffing.
I am none to build.
I agree.
I'm telling you,
All of that.
that's the sandwich I was given. I mean.
That was supposed to minimum staffing. So I mean, you're bringing up these other bills, but is ours the only one that says tripods?
As far as I know, I don't know. These other ones are old. Roscommon, that's set up different. Gladwin set up different. Aranax definitely different. Crawford, I'm sure is older. That's going to be different. I don't see any in here except for maybe Leland on. I haven't been in there in years, so I don't know what they have anymore. And then the one you're talking about, the Osceola, I could be mistaken, but I think they're all millage run, if I'm not mistaken.
That shouldn't have anything to do with their expenditures.
The only one that's millage run that we found was Benzie.
Is it Benzie?
Yeah.
But we're twice as big as they are, as far as capacity.
I understand, but the expenditures there's a big difference, $1 million.
Well, I know,
But the
but
average-
let's take our capacity down to
I'm
their
looking at the
capacity.
average population. I agree it's not comparing apples to apples. I'm just, by looking at this graph, that was a huge.
The closest one to us as far as beds would be Roscommon, and like I said, they're set up different. They don't have transportation, they don't have court. They don't have anything. That's goes into a different budget, not out of their corrections budget. So that would be a considerable amount of money.
Commissioner Mayhew.
I've talked to him and what he explained to me is the $31 a day. It costs less than $7 for that inmate. That drops it down to about $24, $25, and that comes often. You could say our inmates to make it less for our taxpayers, is the way I understood it.
So you're in favor of this,
Yeah. If it's gonna take the burden off, I would say, yeah.
Maybe it's something that'll help us with history of where we got to $31, because a lot of people probably don't realize it. In 2014, when I went over there, the rate was 25. It was $25 a day per inmate. At the end of 2017, we switched that over to a 2-year contract, jumped it to 27. At the end of that contract, 2020, we went to 28, 2021, we went to 29, 2022, we went to 30. We are now at 31. January 1st, we go to 32. The intention is to build it up till it gets to 35. 35 is the basic average rate most jails charge. This stuff was done and in place long before I got there. But if you take, and I know Craig's gonna say they're threatening to live. I've never had a jail. I've never had anybody threaten they were gonna leave. The object is if you take a set rate you give them and you add $10 a day per person, they're gonna leave. Somebody's gonna do it cheaper. That's just the way it is. Nobody's threatened that. That's just a fact.
Crawford's doing it cheaper.
No, well, okay.
Well, are they or aren't they? Or
No.
somebody lied about that?
Well, how much are they charging, Craig?
$15, it says.
That's what you said. That's not accurate. I don't care who's held that number. That's not accurate.
Okay, Osceola's charging 15. Is that not accurate? Iosco charges 20.
I can't believe all these accept non-county daily inmates.
I don't think this.
I don't, they accept that many. This is the smaller facilities, but can we just ask the question outright? These are the answers.
Well, you're very familiar with Aranac. They're at 35. Is that correct?
Probably, but they don't house inmates.
Well, they don't.
Said they do.
Yeah, they said they will. They got a 46-bed facility that's full all the time. I've housed for them. They're not, I shouldn't say that. I'm not saying they wouldn't house, I wouldn't say they wouldn't house an inmate, but they don't do it regularly. They're not taking 15 inmates from Glavin or 15-minute inmates from Iosco. They might house one here and one there for somebody who can't handle them. But I actually house some inmates for Aranac at a time.
They charge 35 or.
They probably do, yes. I would say the going rate is 35. If you looked around the state, you're gonna find it's 35. The state used to pay 35.
Do you think that if we countered at 35, that they would take it or no?
I wouldn't offer it.
Well, according to the Kalkaska County minutes, last year, January 22, if you looked it up, they contacted Wexford and Crawford counties to house their inmates. That's just what I saw in the minutes. So they've already looked at other counties.
They're housing with other counties right now.
Well, they have to. They don't have a jail. They have.
They have a
to.
jail, but it's too old to use anymore.
They have to.
There's things they're doing.
And Lebanon is charging 35, so they're shopping, huh? Is that what it is? And since somebody in our county told them 31, they want to come here because it's cheaper?
The object of 31 was because that's what we charge in other county. If I'm gonna charge Mr. Mayhew $500 for a car, I'm not gonna sell the same car to her for $750.
If she's willing to pay for it, you would.
No, I wouldn't. You might.
Okay,
I would.
I will.
Okay, guys, hang it.
You can.
As far as the contract, we have, you're in favor of it, you're in favor of it, I'm in favor of it. Commissioner Scott, you're a yes or no?
No.
Commissioner Wiltie?
Yeah, I'm in favor. I just think we need to, and we have spoke about this, we need to try as we move forward to maximize that amount we can get per inmate out of county.
That, the contract they want ends in December. January 1st, Osceola's contract would jump $1. If they want to stay with us, we'll jump it right with them until we get up to the amount. I just can't see charging him one thing and her another thing for the same service.
Well, you're saying when you want to sell them the car, You didn't sell it to one and you're selling it to the other one. The thing is you're making, you got two different people offering you two different monies. You're not gonna take the higher money.
This
That's
puts,
not how it's done, Craig.
this puts us
Well,
across the
that's-
board
that
with all
analogy you
inmates
just
that were housing at $31, correct?
Pardon?
This puts us across the board equal all inmates that were housing at $31.
Correct. Same transportation costs. If we have to take them to the hospital, $20 an hour, so times two. Same exact things you guys approved for Oscoda.
I gotta
Years ago.
disagree with the Oscoda scenario because they came, we were on a dollar a year escalation and we were going to exceed 31. And their new county commissioner, chairman, and their sheriff came right in here and asked us, hey, we're on a 12-month, we're on a calendar month. We're not on a fiscal year.
Right.
We didn't plan for this increase. Would you ratchet it back? And we did. So someplace along the line, we quit going a dollar more. We ratcheted back. We should have been, well, I'll show you the minutes.
I can show you the contract. I got it.
I'll
set
show you
right
the
here.
minutes.
Okay, so we'll
That's-
put this on for a resolution.
Okay, so it'll be on the agenda, just procedurally, understand somebody will have to move to take it off the table because it's technically
Okay.
table. So I'll put it under unfinished business. You remove it from the table and then you can move it up where you want or leave it where it is on the agenda, but it's gonna be a little more complicated than your typical resolution,
Okay,
just for that reason.
okay, thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
I would like, for right now, I'd like to, because I have till 10:45, I'd like to skip D&E and you guys can come back to it. I would like to go to F, the maintenance worker position request.
I'm gonna ask that you postpone additional conversation on that too. We will be doing the quarterly budget adjustments, the next round of meetings, and I think your decision on what you do with that position should be informed on where we are with the budget at the time. So if you would indulge me and just delay conversation on that to the next committee of the whole.
Sure, thank you. Item G, cash balance discussion. Tim?
Okay, you've got in front of you some information provided by the treasurer. We put this on here because at our last meeting, when we talked about this, at the audit meeting, I didn't leave here confident that everybody understood the difference between the budget and the cash balance. In the simplest of terms, the budget is the forward thinking. This is what our goals are. This is what we believe our spending plan will look like. Cash is reality. Cash is on the ground. This is where we are today. And we just want to make sure, because I know this is, and you'll see your ballots coming out here probably yet today on the ARPA requests. We just want to make certain that the board, the commissioners, you understand the difference between the two. There was conversation at our last meeting that it just concerned me that maybe it wasn't clear, as I think the comment was we have dealt with financing with the allocations from ARPA to the budget as lost revenue. And while that's true, that's going into the budget, that's in the spending plan for the year. This cash situation is one that's accumulated over, gosh, 15, 20 years of using other funds back up, using the cash that we have available to pay the bills, to keep the lights on, keep the employees paid and so on, and keep them timely. And the treasurer is here, maybe can get way more deep into the explanation than what I can, but the cash is really all the cash that the county has that we utilize. So there'll be maybe a fund balance in, pick a fund that cash is all in one account. It's all one stack of cash that's used to pay the bills. At the end of the year, what the audit tries to do is tell us this much cash was taken from these funds to balance the general fund. That's that 525,000, whatever that number was, that's been short. So in other words, the cash has not been reconciled over the years. It's accumulated to this level. Not a best practice, to say the least, to have that. So what you have here is the explanation of what a budget is. Karen has provided the cash balance sheet, the one that you typically see as of April 5th this year. Now, again, without belaboring points, you can see a negative cash number in here in the millions. We've talked about why that happens in terms of the timing of when the taxes are collected, and they're collected in July, and we're 3/4 of the way through the budget year. So that number falls then. So that's why that September 30th number is. And then finally, the table showing the cash balance at the end of the year, $524,602 negative cash. So, rounded up 525. That's where we were at the end of the fiscal year. That's the number for me that I land on as being the real number. So while 2 million, we have to report it that way. When all was said and done at the end of the fiscal year, the real number was the 524,602 or 802. 602. So that's the number we're talking about. And if there were any questions about that, we definitely would want to field those now so that, again, everybody has an understanding of the more technical components of negative cash and what we're talking about.
I don't have any questions. I see the definition of the budget and the importance of the budget is what was given on our iPad. So I don't have any specific questions. Commissioner Wiltie?
No, I don't have any questions.
Commissioner Scott?
So we want to move ARPA, we'll move the 524.
That's what the request was and what you'll see on the
24,802 will be just in the budget. We'll eliminate that through budget process. In cash balance discussion, PDF, 5G.
5G 1, 2, or 3.
Tim, Karen might be advanced,
Three.
raising her hand.
Oh, flat up, Karen.
Definitely more qualified to talk about that.
Right.
Means.
Good morning, everyone. Karen Piklowski, your Ogemaw County Treasurer. While you're talking about this journal entry of the negative cash,
Yeah.
I want to elaborate on why this journal entry is posted. At year end, you cannot, in your audit, report to the state of Michigan negative cash. This county operates without best practice in a way that is not reportable in the audit to the state. Therefore, at the end of the year, the auditors provide this journal entry for us to post, eliminate that negative cash from our books. And then on October 1st, we reverse this journal entry so the county can continue to operate without best practice. Again, this has been created over a decade of issues to create this. I'm going to stress it is incumbent upon you to fix this problem with the surplus funds that we have available in ARPA. To do so would allow this county to operate with best practice at the forefront of this financial future of this county. We're operating in a way that's not reportable. That is not best practice. You've had an auditor tell you we are not operating with best practice. And I know all of you sitting at this table want to operate that way. We want to be at the end of the race and receive a blue ribbon. We're not going to get a blue ribbon operating this way. And I feel that these ARPA dollars are this one-time chance to correct a decade-old problem. I'm not here asking for money for the treasurer's office. I'm asking for those ARPA funds to fix a decade-old problem on our books.
I have a question, Karen.
Yes.
And I'm not an accountant. I never have been, never probably will be. As you probably be able to tell when I ask this question. Deficit, there's 4 point, how many million? 4.2, 3.
The cash today.
Yeah.
Again, ebbs and flows because we got to wait for our tax funding to come in. The realistic number that we really need to fix is this 525,000. This negative, you're going to see ebbs and flows because we don't bill our taxes until July.
That's right.
So it will continue to be up and down cash flow for general fund. But this will make a significant difference in the balance sheet for this county. ARPA money to balance your budget is to balance your budget with your expenditure forecast. It is your plan. And those ARPA dollars, whether you take it from ARPA or in the past from the tax revolving fund, is only to fill the gap of your lack of revenues to your expenditures. You transfer in to balance the budget. That doesn't affect this negative cash. The only way this goes away is if you have a surplus of revenue over your expense, which is nearly impossible in a county operation. Use those surplus ARPA dollars. It still will leave you over $600,000 for projects that you still want to do. Don't spend money when we have a problem that needs to be fixed. Fix the problem and then spend your money on your projects, please.
So what do we do in future years then?
You control your expenditures. Don't allow cost overrun. This is created because of years where you set the budget and expenditures exceed your revenues. Year after year after year after year. This is
So what
where,
you're saying to the county commissioners is when people come for something they need, we just say no.
I'm not saying that, Brenda, because
we-
that's
yeah.
your decisions to make. You have to decide, is it a equipment purchase so important that you would access capital funds for out of your revolving fund? Those are decisions that are upon your shoulders to make.
But what I see from, from prior to and I haven't been doing budget since I've been commissioner this time. But we've always taken money out of the revolving fund. Because,
Expenditures exceeded your revenues.
and it's been happening for years and years and years. I don't foresee, because it's gonna take cooperation with everyone that's spending money in the county.
Yes, and we have seen some relief on that, Brenda. You passed a millage for MSU. That took the burden of the appropriation off the county. You passed a millage for road patrol that took a burden off of that general fund. So this county has made good choices and good changes to help balance the revenues to the expenditure and not pull 700,000 or 800,000 out of the revolving fund. You just have to keep moving forward with those good decisions, those good sound fiscal decisions that have been being made. You just have to keep that fiscal minded mindset to balance your expenditure control. Will you be able to balance it completely? Probably not, because we're service industry driven. So it's a balancing act and it's very, very difficult.
I think it would be very difficult because we are not, we're not trained, or all the people in this county that are department heads, and it's not just in this building, it's other places in the county. They need something, they want it, and we spend the money, and there you have it. So I think we'll be right back where we were. That's what I'm looking at. There's no control. I mean, I look at some of the expenditures that have been taking place in different places in this county. And they've increased from last year to this year. And it's like, so how do we stop that?
Well, you also have to consider the economy, Brenda. You have cost of inflation that calculates into there as well. You have union contracts that set forth pay increases. So some of that is out of your control. Inflation, union contracts. I don't have the answer. No one does. There's no crystal ball, as Charlie mentioned earlier. Tough decisions. That's why you became a commissioner, so you could make those tough decisions. I'm just asking you today to be responsible and fiscally dedicated to fixing our books. Don't let this continue to haunt us for the next 10 years. You have $500,000 at your disposal right now from ARPA that could fix this problem.
So the 2 million, you've already gotten 2 million, right?
No,
$500,000 over 4 years.
balance your budget. That helped fill the gap of your revenue to your expenditures forecasted. That didn't fix this problem. It balanced your budget. That's why on your iPads today, I explained what a budget is. A budget is your financial forecast. It is you saying, I forecast we're going to expend this much money and this is how we're going to pay for it. You had a gap of $500,000 of revenues to your forecasted expenditures. That money you transferred in from ARPA just said, this is how we're filling the gap between revenues and expenditures. It didn't address this problem. It did not address this problem. It balanced your budget.
Yeah, so 4 million went in there or 2 million went in there to balance our budget.
To cover the cost of the expenditure forecasted,
So
yes.
what happens when we don't have that any money anymore?
Your ARPA money?
Yeah. What happens then?
Unless you have better expenditure control, you're going to continue to raid the revolving fund, which was done in the past. So unless you reduce expenditures to meet your revenues, there's always going to be a gap in there where you're going to have to fill in the difference between your revenues and your expenditures. Otherwise, you bring your expenditures down to meet the revenue that you have. You receive a pension from the military. You have expenditures for your household. You can't spend more than you have, or you have to pull money from your savings to cover those costs. It's the same concept on a much larger scale, millions of dollars, right? You have to reduce your expenditures. What is the answer? I can't tell you that, Brenda. That's why you've been elected to make those decisions. Again, I'm just asking you to realize the difference between balancing a budget and cash flow and fixing this decade-old problem with the dollars you have. You would still have over $600,000 that's not dedicated for ARPA to spend on projects. You mentioned windows for the county building or new energy saving lights. You would still have funding towards those projects after fixing a decade-old problem. But budgets and cash are two different things, and I don't want you to be confused by that.
Mr. Scott?
Tim, can you put some light on to Brenda's question about what'll happen when there's no more?
500,000.
Well, a few things in play. We being the county a few years ago, made a commitment to wean ourselves off from that revolving fund. So 24, next year will be the last year where you'll see a budget proposed that would include bringing money over. That's not to say that money isn't available to you, but we're not programming it in as part of what we expect to see for revenue. Why is this important? Well, a couple of years ago, there was a presentation from the auditor and their calculations where there was a set number that you could safely would take from the tax revolving fund without compromising it. We were way above that number at that time, which rang the alarm. If that tax revolving fund is exhausted, which is within your ability as commissioners to do, we're going to come to a time where the treasurer is going to need to settle with all of the local communities and there won't be money to settle with. So what do? Knock on the door of the local bank and say, we need a couple million. How much is that going to cost us? So you'll be interest on that. There'll be, other costs, just like on a mortgage, there are all sorts of costs that are involved. So you're paying that now on top of everything else that we've got going on. Theoretically, by the end of the year, the taxes will have come in and we can pay off that loan. But then you're in a cycle of doing that year after year after year. We're trying to avoid that scenario at all costs. That's just not, you can't sustain that moving forward. So now I've forgotten what your question was, but I hope.
Well, Brenda said once ARPA runs out,
You're fine.
that it's been giving us a crutch on our budget. Once
Now-
it runs out, it's what
The
keeps us from spending too much money.
year that all of that will come to fruition is fiscal year 25. There will be no more ARPA to bring in.
Right.
Projecting forward from 3 years ago, whatever it was, we estimated by the time we get there, the revenue increases from the property tax would likely be enough to cover that gap. And given the report that Randy just gave us and knowing where we were last year, pretty good chance we'll meet that, so long as we keep our other expenses under control. We don't commit ourselves to something that we can't really afford by the time that year comes around. And that's where I come in. That's why I try to forecast that so that you have good information to make that decision on. So that's where we stand right now. I want to emphasize, it doesn't say you can never use tax revolving fund.
Right.
But what I'm going to suggest is if you do that, you use it for like a capital project, not for ongoing expense. And that way you control it. You control consciously how much we're going to take out of there, and you know what that balance is, and if you're about to get into trouble and have to go get a loan from the bank to pay the bills.
My first term, they were talking about borrowing the money. They've done it in the 70s. They did it back in the 70s. We did not have a revolving fund. So it was Maggie Robinson and a couple of the commissioners that put that in place so that we'd never have to borrow money. Then we started, then in the up into the 2000s, they started spending it again. And it was always, don't worry about it. We got it in tax revolving fund. When somebody came to us, like you said, people came to us every meeting They wanted something over and above their budget. Well, and part of that was people didn't even look at their budget. That was something that just got submitted to the state. I talked to people here that were head of departments. They didn't even know what their budget was because you just go until somebody says you can't.
I gotta intervene, Brendan, you gotta take the meeting over.
And you can't run a business like that. And Karen will tell you, ever since the day one, when I came here, I said, what's our finances right today? And the answer I got was, oh, Craig, we can't tell you that. Well, then can you tell me at the end of the month? No, it's different than business. You can't do that. Well, it isn't different than business. I can go right to a computer right now and I can tell you where we're at right today.
But you didn't have a balanced checkbook then.
We didn't have a
either.
balanced checkbook. That was probably the biggest problem right there.
Huge problem.
They were spending money and didn't even know how much they were spending. Yeah, go ahead.
The point is,
You're in charge.
Right.
She's
Okay.
up.
that's right, I am in charge.
Yes, you're in charge. You got the gavel.
But one point where that was brought up one time is when a judge wanted to talk to me about the budget. Can I talk to you? And I said, sure. He said, I want to talk to you about the budget. I said, you know what your budget is? Have you seen it? Have you looked at it? He said, no. And I said, there's no sense of talking then.
Right.
There's no sense of us talking. You haven't even looked at your budget and you want to talk about it.
Brenda, can I repeat this one more time? I
Mhm.
just want to stress to people who haven't heard this before. This journal entry is to clean up our books so that they're acceptable and reportable to the state of Michigan, because you can't operate with negative cash.
Yeah.
You are, because we post this journal entry and then we reverse it on October 1 to make our audit and our financial statements acceptable to the state of Michigan. But this county is operating in a way that's not best practice. We're only,
Pay a fine for doing that?
no, because this journal entry cleans up your financial statement for year end. And then we report, we file the audit. After the audit's filed, we then reverse this journal entry and the county continues to operate without best practice.
But Roger, last year, this question came up and we asked the CPA. What do you mean you got negative cash? How did you report that? Well, we talked with the past treasurer and we said that legally you could just move the debt into another fund. And then on September 29th, and then bring it back to October 2nd, bring it back, and there it is. So the state got a report that didn't show a negative. We asked point blank, is this a general accepted accounting principle? No, it's not. Is it legal? Yes, it's legal.
But it's
But
not
it's not
best
something-
practice.
And the commissioners had no idea that this was going on year over year over year,
A decade.
a decade, yeah.
What I'm saying is it's been going on a while.
It's been going on a while.
They do this practice study. It ain't the first year.
But you have a county treasurer now that doesn't want this to be happening.
Yeah, but he was sitting right here. And
Who?
you were, when the people come in the other day and we told them it was $4.5 million in the hole. And they didn't have any trouble asking for $100,000.
Well, it's not gonna stop
sat
your
right there.
departments from asking for
There was
more.
people that were thinking it was a good idea,
That what was a good idea?
spending $100,000 after we just was told we're at 4 million, some $500,000 in debt.
What was,
But that wasn't
what was that?
people that worked here.
No, there was 3 different groups of people that came.
Right, you had
came-
EDC and
The
the
ARPA?
chamber and,
Your
yes,
ARPA request?
yes.
And like I said, no, it was.
It's not gonna stop people from requesting money from you.
Absolutely.
We just have to say no.
You sat right there. Mr. Wilson was hip on it. There was a couple, 3 people that was, they're not bad ideas, but we can't afford them.
Commissioner Mayhew, though, that's not apples for apples. That's for ARPA. That's for the ARPA funds.
That's a whole separate pile of money.
Separate.
You're
No.
1 million.
They want to take the ARPA fund and bail us out.
Right.
Well, she had already requested that we use it for this.
And you'd still
Wow.
have 600,000 and change to spend on those other projects, the EDC that requested and the tourist bureau that requested money from you. You would still have over $600,000 to appropriate to other items.
We need to appropriate money to take care of this building, number
Right,
one.
Brenda had mentioned lights
Not
and
to give
window.
other organizations that already received
just
ARPA
said
money.
that
They spent
We
theirs. I
have to
want to spend
change the
ours.
way we do this and quit giving stuff away. It ain't started yet.
Well, you're gonna always have somebody asking you for something, Roger.
I understand.
You always
I'm
will.
just telling you, it's,
But to operate without best practice
well. it
is
ain't-
not
it-
good business.
I understand, but if it's been going on for a decade, that's been a while.
Yeah, it's time to fix
We're
the
trying to
problem.
Stop it.
Time to fix the problem, Roger.
But we have,
We don't want to be
but
part
we
of the
have been
problem. We want to be the
No, no.
solution.
we have been changing the way we've been doing business, Roger. Over the last couple of years, we've been going to them and saying, let's look into your budget and see where you got money. You know,
Well,
we ask, is it in your budget? Oh, I don't know if it's in my budget. I just need it. Well, wait a minute, stop. Let's open up your budget. Let's take a look and see if there's money in it. Okay, before you just say, you guys gotta pay for something over and above my budget, and I get to hold on to my budget. Now, the past sheriff, not this sheriff, the past sheriff would do this all the time. And then he had $200,000 sitting in a commissary fund, but no, I don't wanna touch that. I want you to spend over and above my budget for something else. No, not anymore. The new sheriff comes in, talks with Tim and says, you know, you got money here. All you gotta do is move it around a little bit. It's in the budget. So we are doing things different than we did before. They really are.
Yeah.
I'd say since 2020, the last election, big election, we have been seeing a big trend going the other way. It's working, but we gotta stick to it,
absolutely.
you know, but you can't do it overnight.
Do it.
Now, ARPA was kind of like an overnight, it's a windfall. I mean, you know, why the federal government gave all this money out, I can't believe it, but they did. So we've been able to bring the budget different. Just like Randy Booth said, our valuations are up. We'll see those tax money come in. It won't come in immediately. Nothing happens immediately in government. It takes a while, but that revenue will come up. Our job is to hold off spending over here, so this will catch up.
Yeah, and please, Roger, don't think that, well, you've been able to do it for 10 years. It's okay to keep operating that way. You can't report this to the state of Michigan. That's why these journal entries are posted, because we're not operating the way we should. It's not even reportable to the state. Don't think just because we've made it this far, we can keep going this way. We need to fix this problem and
No.
operate the way business should
No,
be
my theory
operated.
is to work out of it. Don't take a windfall. Don't go bet $1 million at the racetrack to clear up your debt. Work your way out.
But our debt is 525,000 and you have 1.2. You have more than enough to solve this problem and still have over 600,000 to use for projects.
But
Not asking for all of your money. I'm just asking you to fix this problem. You still have over 600,000 to spend on projects. Please. Fix this decade-old problem and put this county on to have financial statements that are actually reportable to the state of Michigan without adjusting journal entries. Let's have books we can actually be proud of and report to the state the way they actually are. Not doing some quick movement, reverse it and keep operating in a way that's not best practice.
So, Roger, I'd like to say, and I know you guys heard me talk adamantly about this last Friday. So obviously, in a perfect world, we have this $1.2 million we could use to do a lot of great things, and we're still gonna have it. I feel strongly that $600,000, we can do a lot of good stuff. I think here in the building, we can do some things that will help us save money for the future. But right now, we have this very, very rare opportunity to fix a problem that is a huge, huge problem. Negative cash flow. This is a business we're running. Negative cash flow can sink a ship. We have a very rare opportunity, Roger, to fix this problem. And like Commissioner Scott said, over the last couple of years, they have put their foot down more. We have seen, decrease in spendings. So we have this rare opportunity to fix this, and then us job as commissioners, yes, we get a lot of people coming in, want, but we have to stay strong to what we believe in.
No.
And we can do this. We've seen it's getting better, and we can continue to make it better. But we have to take advantage of this opportunity right now. We can't fix the past. All we can do is learn from it. And I think we have the right people in place now that we're learning from it and moving forward. We will eventually get to a point where I think we're going to be plush and we're going to be sitting at a county level where we should be very proud. But right now, this is an extremely critical moment for this county. And myself as a new commissioner, I feel it's extremely important that we have to take care of this negative cash flow, and we have to move forward, being very strong with our actions to save the county as much money as we can. And we know this expenditure control issues is a huge problem. So our job is we have to go through these line items. We have to figure out where these expenditure issues are happening, and we have to fix them, and we have to fix them now.
Oh, I'm in charge. I have.
Gotta remember that.
Jenny gone.
Any other questions, Brenda?
I just want to, how long do we have to spend this ARPA money?
You don't have a limit.
There's no limit.
When there was a resolution that was passed, let's say 2 years ago now, following the guidelines from Department of Treasury, this was all declared, the entire 4 point whatever million was declared as lost revenue. And I use those words in quotes. When that occurred, that committed the money, and the original deadline was committed by 24, spent by 26. But when you pass that resolution as a board, those deadlines are now off. You've made the commitment. You've met the requirement. We're a county that received under $10 million. That's all they needed to hear from us. So the answer is that you don't have a limit when that's spent. You are maintaining the spirit of what that original deadline was, but you've done everything you needed to do.
We have done this transition for a long time. The thing is, we have to know if we can decrease our expenditures and keep them there. So what happens if we don't do that? We put this money and we're gonna be right back where we started from.
Well, it's not really decrease, it's hold. We need to hold at, we collect $11 million a year. We're gonna spend $11 million a year. We hope to spend a few percent less than that so that we have a fund balance. But basically the taxpayers in this county have paid for services ahead of time. They expect so much level of services from their government agency. So we charge them by millage or by taxes, and they pay for it. And they expect to get that service. And if we maintain that level of service, that's all we gotta do is maintain that level of service.
But to maintain that level of service, we keep spending more money than we should be spending. That's what it says to me. I mean, this has been going on, and now all of a sudden, it's not gonna go on anymore. We
Not
can
all,
stay
it's
level.
really not all of a sudden. It sounds like all of a sudden. But you were here when the Headley boat got failed.
And it's gonna, and the headway,
Okay.
it's gonna happen again.
Well, I mean, the Headley rollback boat came up, what, in 2008,
2016, I think we ran
16?
the
Okay.
millage.
And we dropped a lot of stuff off. There was money going everywhere. There was money going to different private committees. There was money going out to this, money going out to that. And they cut out all that. Look at how much went to MSU,
911.
911, all these different things. And all that was cut back. There's a lot of office people lost their jobs over that, you know. So that year they cut back. Then there was other years they cut back some. And here in the last 3, we've been trimming back budget wise from it back. The ball has been started. It just. It's kind of like my property taxes at home. I got a half a year behind. Okay, and so I'm always paying my half a year, a year later.
And penalties.
Well, and penalties too, right? So I just keep doing this and I keep saying, geez, I'll work it out. I'll make a little bit more next year, or I'll cut out going to the restaurant, you know, I'll catch up. I'll finally catch up. But those, all of a sudden, somebody gave me a bunch of money. Okay, all of a sudden, a guy named ARPA come along, he gave me some money, and I said, you know what? If I take that money right now and put it on that property tax, that delinquent property, I can start out even again.
And I understand what you're saying, but what happens if you get all that ARPA money and say, oh, I got all this money, I'm gonna go buy this now, and that now, and every other thing now. And,
Well, I'll tell you what.
you know, trust is good, proof is better.
The proof,
If we can prove to hold that, then I would be agreeable to. But if we can't hold that where it is right now, our expenditures. Or decrease them. You know,
Brenda, we're the one that.
you have to prove it, you know, trust is good, proof is better. I've got to see the proof that we can.
Brenda, you need to trust yourself that you're gonna work with us and we're gonna prove that it can happen. We're the ones that are gonna be able to do this.
But don't turn a blind eye on a
You don't
decade old
know
problem.
my history here. I'll explain it to you someday.
Please don't turn a blind eye to a decade old problem. You have an opportunity to have good financial statements that are reportable to the state of Michigan without
That
journaling.
ARPA money, we prove it now, we don't approve it now. That ARPA money still be there, we don't have to spend it.
You
we've been
don't.
very frugal about spending the ARPA money. You know, most government entities have spent theirs. Most of them have spent theirs. We're only, we've put half away for the budget right
Yeah,
away.
Yeah.
We saw this problem. This was another one of these problems I'm talking about. Age old, but deficit budgets. So we already took some ARPA money and did that. And now and that's been helping us big time. And then the remainder, we've been very frugal about it, very frugal. We have not just gone out and just bought this and bought that and everything else. We've turned down quite a few requests.
you turned down quite a few requests, but I've seen expenditures on
Like what?
some vehicles that I didn't think were necessary.
Okay, I will agree to the point that you don't think they're necessary. Okay, I'll agree to that point.
Mhm.
But I don't think, personally, I don't think we've made those wrong decisions, but I'll agree that you disagree. But, and that's a small number. A vehicle out of that total pot there.
How many vehicles
But
do
it
I have
was-
that ARPA money?
5, 6?
That's not small,
Five,
that's
six.
not small numbers.
Okay, well, for instance, your building department, they were driving around rusty old trucks, ready to fall apart.
And how much did they spend for that vehicle?
We spent 40,000 for each vehicle,
Under that, it was 65.
65 for both.
For both, yeah.
Yep. You know,
So
I mean,
that
you've been to
38,000?
you've been to the car lots. I don't have to
But
tell
how
you,
much
you've been
was
there.
that truck for the
But you
sheriff
are.
department? How much was that truck for animal control? Did he need a 3/4 ton truck?
I
How
think
much does a dog weigh?
I think he needed a 1-ton truck with a bigger box on it myself. But that was just my feeling. I didn't think it was gonna be a pickup truck. I even put the question out there to the dog catcher. Is surveyed other departments. Do you need a van? Do you need one of these tall vans? Do we need, what size do we really need? You know? I was surprised it was pickup, and yes, it needed to be 3/4 ton, absolutely. Absolutely. I've been in the trucking business almost my whole entire life. He needed a 3/4 ton,
Tell me why.
because he's carrying a bigger load.
How much does that box weigh?
I don't know.
Oh, my gosh.
I don't have to know how much it weighs.
Of course you do.
No, I don't have to know how much it. I just need to know what size truck it has to carry it. Don't give me this, I have to know how much it weighs. That's,
How do you know? How do you know? Half-ton truck couldn't carry that box.
personally, I didn't want a half-ton truck carrying it. I wanted a 3/4 ton truck carrying it. But I'm just one person out of 5. You can vote against me any day of the week. I don't care.
I understand that.
And we can agree to disagree.
Yes, we can.
And the sheriff's department also got a pickup truck, and that was one of on my agenda when I came on board here the first day. And I said that they should have a pickup truck.
Okay, let's move on.
You
You're in
have no other
charge.
questions for me?
Thank
Do you understand the adjusting journal entry?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sharon.
Okay.
Thank you.
You want to go back and pick up those 2 that we skipped? 2 policies.
Where are we? The draft broad policy.
Yeah, I'll be brief.
Okay, let's do
Um,
5D.
Yeah. 5D is a draft fraud policy, maybe should be titled anti-fraud policy. You know, we're not promoting fraud. This one and the other draft on the whistleblower protection policy are generated by the Community Development Block Grant we received for housing. One of the criteria to receive those monies is to have a fraud policy and a whistleblower policy. So those are the drafts you have in front of you. I would suggest that at this point, we just, you have them now, you'll have an opportunity to review them and that we take it and at the next committee of the whole meeting. They're not strokes of genius. These are pretty well boilerplates that track with state and federal laws, but it does put us on record saying that we have these as our policies, as our shall we say, our method of doing business moving forward. We don't support fraud and we do support whistleblowers where there are complaints. But I just suggest that we put that to the next Cal meeting, give you a chance to really look at it. I can then circulate it among departments as well and get whatever other input we might receive.
Okay.
Tim, this is just kind of standard.
It is. There's not, like I said, nothing special about the language. I don't mind telling you, I surveyed other counties to see what they had and took what I felt were the best pieces, the best language, put it in here. And that's what you've got to start with.
And we're gonna do it as next committee as a whole.
Yeah.
Okay. That'll be on our agenda.
It will.
Thank you. Okay, let's go to 5F. Maintenance worker position request.
Again, that one, I'm going to ask that you delay discussion until your next meeting. The next round, we'll actually be doing the quarterly budget adjustments and you'll be in a better position to know whether we can actually afford to do this.
Okay. All right, let's put it on next committee as a whole then.
Right.
The High Banks update.
So I copied the email that Mark Serbrook mentioned. It might be 2 weeks ago now. We had talked with Andy Bacon at the Michigan Nature Association. I see the acronym MNA, and to me, that's the Michigan Nurses Association. It's not them, it's the Michigan Nature Association. We'd asked them about their interest in possibly taking over the High Banks property that borders on the Rifle River. They talked about it with their board and determined that it really wasn't a good fit for their mission. That's not what they do. Mr. Bacon, on our behalf, did reach out to the Huron Pines Land Conservancy and the Saginaw Basin Land Conservancy to gauge their interest, and neither of them felt they were in a position. They were certainly interested, but we're not in a position to take on the necessary maintenance and upkeep at High Banks. But they also suggested that we contact the Headwaters Land Conservancy in Gaylord and gave us the contact information here to gauge their interest, and also suggested that we contact the DNR state parks to find out what their interest might be. It's not to suggest that this would be a state park by any mention or any ways, but the state does maintain water access across the state at a level that's less than a state park, but they take over the maintenance and make sure that's kept up. And so that's really the update. And frankly, I think that's some good suggestions that we ought to just follow up at the staff level and then report back to you if we find out that anybody's interested.
Okay, I have a comment. You realize that High Banks is a dam, right?
I've been educated about that, yes.
That High Banks is a dam. You can't build on it. You can't do anything to it because it is a dam. So no one's gonna want to take that because of the liability. And that's number one, why we want to get rid of it also, is because it is a large liability. I would be hoping that the state would take it. But I don't know if they will because they're getting rid of a lot of dams. I don't know what the solution is. Anybody have any ideas?
Put it up for sale,
Pardon me?
list it, put it up for
You
sale.
can't sell it. It's a dam. And you gotta tell them it's,
Is it illegal to sell it?
huh?
You're telling me it's illegal to sell it? I'll tell them it's a dam. I don't care.
They never buy it. No one would ever buy a
It
dam.
doesn't cost, it doesn't cost a nickel to list something on real estate. Doesn't cost a nickel. I'm not spending any money.
And you're gonna tell them about the liability that goes along with it.
I have a question.
Yes.
So where is the clarification that it's considered a dam? Where are you getting that information from?
It's a burn dam. It's been there. Everybody knows that's the dam. That's what holds that
Dam
lake
dam.
water in.
Right, but that dam is owned by on that side of the road is owned by the Lake Ogemaw Association.
No, I tell you what happened. The person that owned that dam didn't pay the taxes on it, and we got it back.
So the Lake Ogemaw Association doesn't own that
No. We do.
across the road from High Banks. We own that whole stretch there.
Yes, we own the whole dam. And that dam goes under that road that was built there, over to the spillway over the river.
So all that's in place is a spillway right now that runs into a culvert.
That's the dam.
So Tim, we own that, the Lake Ogemaw Association maintains it.
We had a plot given to us at one time. We ought to see that again.
The county owns about 7 acres and it came in possession piecemeal. So there were like 3 or 4 different transactions that got to that 7 acres. Whether or not that dam is included, I'm not familiar enough off the top of my head to tell you for sure, but I've made a note. We'll check it out. If we do, we'll know. If not, we'll know. I mean, the property records are going to tell me pretty quickly. So it's an answer that we can come up with definitively. I think Commissioner Scott's suggestion is really good that the next time we talk about this, we'll have a map for you. And you'll be able to see, the various ownerships and how it lays out, geographically.
And let's put it on the committee.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. I'd like us also keep in mind that, this obviously is an area where we get a lot of our non-resident population come to use this area. They spend money at our gas stations, at our bars and our restaurants. And I really do not want to see this sold out to a private individual. Yes, I am representing Mills Township and it is in Mills Township. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of people that use the High Banks every year. And I'm proud that Ogemaw County owns it. I understand there's some liabilities here, but I would like to get some more information on who owns the properties before we just start wibbly wobbling, throwing things out. And I'd like to see that information.
Okay. Then we'll talk about next committee as a whole meeting.
We will.
Put it on the agenda. Okay, High Banks will be on the committee as a whole, next committee as a whole meeting, along with these policies. Any public comment on anything? Any public comment here, commissioners? Okay, I need a motion to adjourn.
Yep.
Motion by Mr. Mayhew,
I'll second.
Commissioner Wilson, second. All in favor? Aye,
I.
we're adjourned.
Sweat that.